Okay, I was just saying, getting started is so hard because I've been there myself. Well, I was in design and everything was going fine. I was able to pay my bills and, I was in fashion, and it wasn't something that I didn't want before. It was something that I'd wanted.
I think it's also like that's definitely right, but I think this is also another thing for people who are not meant to be working in like working under people is that
Some people are good while they have someone else working with them for a very long time. I struggle to work with people.
being an artist is a completely different thing. It is really difficult in the beginning. Oh, sorry. So I'll just pick up my story. I just realized I was talking about something. Yeah, anyway, so I did this competition. Of course I didn't get in because I was pretty bad.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Arts to Hearts podcast. Today I have a brilliant cover artist and an amazing female artist who is with me on this episode. Welcome to the podcast, Haejin. Haejin is an artist based out of Germany who also is currently on the covers of Arts to Hearts magazine issue 6. The beautiful bath series and the flowers that you see, we've received so much love for this cover, and we've had so much fun curating this issue that I am truly excited to speak to you, hear your story, who you are, what you do. But firstly, a big warm welcome to the podcast and a big congratulations to you, Hygiene.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. It's such an honor to meet you in person as well. I actually did some reading about you too. It's incredible how you set everything up for women artists and emerging artists. It's really incredible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you are one of the. We've had so much fun working with you for this cover, and I love when artists are as excited and as responding as you were. You were so participative and such a even Rabia and every member of the team, anyone who's reaching out to you on social media, anyone who was also reaching out to for the book edits. I think a lot of time, this energy sometimes I feel is not, honestly, with all honesty, it's not something that you always find. Can we hear from you? How has been your career so far? What brought you here? And what really excites you and helps you and encourages you to make the art that you're making today and being the artist that you're today?
Well, it's actually I think it's a long story, but I'll make it as short as possible. So I think, and I think you would agree, as being an artist is something. I think it's not a choice, but it's something that you are born with. That's something innate within you, like spiritually. I was always born to be an artist. Ever since I was a young child, drawing was always something that interested me. It was something that I did very well. However, the environment that I was in, it wasn't really, it didn't really support that. And when I moved to Australia by myself at 12, it's because I was alone. Yeah, it was pretty tough. Like I didn't really have any parents that supported me for general anything, um, but especially like to become an artist and to go to art school, like you have to have parental support for that, or any, like adult support because you've got to go to art school, create portfolios. You can't like to get into like art university. You have to have those things ready to do like an interview for the university and something like that. But anyways, like even then I like in high school I was one of the I guess student that was known as someone who was very artistic and someone who was really interested in it. However, because of the way I grew up and the difficulties I had, like I think like a simple thought of having a dream wasn't really available for me. So like I didn't even actually think about it. I mean like I loved art, but because my life was so hard.
It didn't feel like a career option or something that you could pursue. I can relate to that.
Yeah, yeah. I just I just wanted to, I guess, survive to the point that where I could earn stable money, stable income. So instead of anything artistic,
You have to support yourself.
no, well, I had my mom. Well, I had my mom helping with the school fees, but the rest of it I had to sort of take care of it by myself. And I guess like it made me then, yeah, want the stable income. So I ended up doing I did my bachelor's in biomedical science, and it was fine. Like I mean, like I did it purely out of responsibility, so I did that, and then I did my master's in molecular biotechnology, and just naturally
My goodness.
I got into that business. I was a chemical regulatory affairs analyst for all of my 20s into my early 30s, and like money was really good. It like my life started to become very comfortable, and I was able to support my sister as well, who moved to the university after she graduated high school in Korea, because I was the older child. And I mean, like it was fine. Like, and then I think like people might relate to this. People who haven't gone into the field that they like or they're passionate about. There's like a certain level that you get to, and then you find yourself feeling so empty. So I was getting monthly, like salaries. I was able to do things that I wanted, but I felt so empty. And working in this corporate environment, I really tried, but I had to be someone else for it because I couldn't be my. I just felt like I couldn't be myself because I was always quite, I guess, quirky and a bit unusual, and I had to sort of like squash that away and just pretend that I was someone else, and it just became more and more, I guess. I don't want to use such harsh word, but very insufferable. I started feeling depressed about it.
Yeah, it's not sometimes everything, even while everything's working fine, you're exactly where you want, but there's also a huge difference. It's not, it's, I felt that way for a long time until I decided, like, I wanted to be an artist, that I had to make art. I just had to. Like, it wasn't like I just had to. Now, even if life gets busy, whatever, I know I have to keep making art for myself or whoever, but just this impulse of creating is extremely important.
Exactly. I think you're right. It's like an impulse. It's like something within you just have to
Yeah,
use your hands, create. Like some people are meant, they're born to create. And then, so one day, I'll be honest with you, is where like I feel really comfortable with you, and I think being candid is really important to be open.
absolutely. That's why we are here.
So I started feeling quite depressed, and because I was young, I was only 24, 25, and I didn't know how to handle these emotions and depression, so I started drinking. Oh, so that's how I released my stress. And I was too young to understand what was going on. And then my sister, who happened to get into architecture, and when she was in university, she like during architecture, you have to like build a lot of models. She always had like leftover of like papers, like colored papers or something that was lying around, like hardwood paper, and she saw me being idle and like drinking beer every night just to get past my stress. Like, why didn't you just start doing some drawings like you used to when you were young? And I thought, oh, okay. And she goes, oh, look, I've got these colored pencils as well. And I started drawing, and I just found myself feeling right again. And then it's one thing just happened after another. So I started doing drawings and started really liking it. And a friend of mine said, oh, why don't you apply for this online competition? I didn't know even those things existed. She sent me a link for it because she was in the design field. So I applied for it. And of course I didn't win because I was pretty.
You were just starting out, but you found the courage to apply and, set out on a path. I think winning, like, just triggering that thing is so much more harder than winning. Once you start practice, you get consistent. Winning gets easier. It's out of consistency. It gets you keep getting better. But what's hard is starting, even when you know you're just the beginner. Can you give me 1 sec? My dog's going to drive me mad otherwise. Let me just let her in.
Okay. Sorry, can I ask you what kind of dog you have?
Okay, I was just saying, getting started is so hard because I've been there myself. Well, I was in design and everything was going fine. I was able to pay my bills and, I was in fashion, and it wasn't something that I didn't want before. It was something that I'd wanted. But then there was this incompleteness, this urge, like something felt really wrong and I just didn't feel happy. Like you said, I in fact felt a lot more depressed. And even though I was in the creative field, but I realized I really needed my hands to move. I really like I had so much in me, and I think it also comes from this desire that I want to say so many things that, you know art becomes writing, art, making art. It's become this creative outlet that just has to go out.
I think it's also like that's definitely right, but I think this is also another thing for people who are not meant to be working in like working under people. Is that
Absolutely, I knew I made a terrible employee. I worked for a year for someone, and I just knew that, I think if I made an I either was making an employee who was overly excited trying to do so much, and then feeling like I'm not recognized enough, acknowledged enough, things like that. Or I was feeling like, I'm just so much driven by my own ideas that it's so hard for me to. And also, I just didn't know how to get a job. I think my biggest barrier was I just didn't know. Um, I just couldn't see myself sticking through a 9 to 5 routine, where I had, I had to be at one place and go to office every day and do all of that. And just I like to do things at my will. And for that, I know, I had so much struggle in the beginning of my career because I was just so much independent that I didn't know where to start, where to go, how to find nothing. So I think if you also, once you choose a path, you also, like, you're finding your calling. It does not mean that it's going to be easy. Like, you'll find it, specifically when people feel like, oh, it's, the artist world, or how artsy it is. It's a lot of responsibility because you have to fend for yourself. You become your own boss, but you also work 24/7, and you bring the food on the table.
I mean I work so much more than I ever did compared to when I worked for a company, even though I'm, you know, working in the company I made lot more money.
Lot more money. Yeah.
Yeah, however, it's not like life isn't all about money. I mean,
Yeah.
it is, but not when it's when you're doing something that you're not, and I guess not fulfilling you. It's also like for people who I feel like it's not they're not meant to work under other people are like people who feel like me. I have this I like this is quite relatable to like some of my other friends as well who has their own business or who's an artist themselves, is that you work really hard for this company, but you're like, and the company does well or whatever, but you're like, but where's my growth? Do you know, like where's my fulfillment? Whereas art is a very hard industry, definitely
Yeah.
very hard. However, I feel like the fulfillment is so much more than if I was to be working in a company.
Yeah, and I think, you know what? I also feel like it is so individualistic. I think some people are just really good because, I think we all have such unique talents and unique qualities that some people are good while they have, someone else working with them for a very long time. I struggle to work with people, and that was, I think, a biggest barrier because I was just such a lone creator, a lone person. Like, just as a creative person, you in the beginning of your years, you create so much by yourself that I found it really hard to work with people. And some people I feel like are just so naturally good while working with people, and there's such, they, they thrive on working with someone else. They don't know, need as much alone time. And some people really really like, I understand this today, maybe I didn't understand that now. Even today, now I work, I know that I thrive on working with people, in the sense of I need a lot of alone time, but also, like, Arts to Arts project, we're a team of 15 people. There's so much that we make this happen, I wouldn't have been able to do by myself. And it's also because of so many other women creators who work. But also, I think what's different is while you work and what it makes you feel. And I think it is, I just never found myself in traditional jobs where they made you feel like you're just here to do something, do that. And I just wanted, um, I think as creators we also want to feel part of something. And while we do projects, and we are always doing that in collaborations, that you have a role to play. And there's a bigger purpose, there's a bigger vision, and sometimes I think that also is something we're all searching for.
Yeah, I mean, being an artist is a completely different thing. It is really difficult in the beginning. Oh, sorry. So I'll just pick up my story. I just realized I was talking about something. Yeah, anyway, so I did this competition. Of course, I didn't get in because, I was pretty bad back then. And
Okay.
but because I was on it, there was this startup company in Australia. It was an online art selling platform like Saatchi Art Finder, but it was an Australian brand, and they were starting out, and they were just scouting artists, and I guess I just happened to be seen. So
How important is that?
yeah, so I think it's really important, like the competitions, like if it's a legitimate competition, I think it's important to keep trying so you can be seen for, curators or like other people. So I got picked up and I had a contract with them, and I started selling art on the side. So I'd be working full time, and then in the evenings and on the weekends I'd
You would paint and
paint. And I mean, surprisingly as bad as I think I was in the beginning, because I mean, like I don't want to use the word bad, but I've always had certain level of I guess like certain level of expectation that I wanted from myself.
yeah,
Made it obviously because I was a starting out artist, but I
yeah,
pretty well. I sold a lot of prints there, and I did some commissions, and I did some art fairs
yeah,
just to have an experience in it. But I struggled a lot. I struggled because I think there was a lot of things that I was struggling. I wanted to find that specific, unique signature style that said Haejin Yoo, and
yeah,
incredibly difficult to find. Like
yeah.
like it feels like if you're not an artist and you look at Instagram, and everyone has their own style, and you think that's so easy. It's not easy.
Absolutely. And it takes a lot of practice. And I think this is such a myth so many times that we're also sold. Like, style is as evolving as we are. Style comes to us and goes. It's also something that is equally important to get us recognition, but also something that we need to keep working on and getting better and evolving. And so many artists in the beginning get confused that their success is only going to come when they have like this signature style, which is also such a paradox in itself, that it's such an ever going journey.
Yeah. Well, I thought that, well, I first of all knew that my technique level wasn't good enough. So I taught myself
Okay.
really color pens.
You've taught yourself some incredible techniques. Like, if we look at your work, like, you are very skilled technically. Anyone can make that out.
Oh, I think it took about 10 years. It took a
Goodness.
time, because actually more than 10 years. I started drawing when I was 25. I'm 39, so it took 14 years.
Goodness, look at you. Don't even look like one.
Oh, oh, that makes me feel good. I don't feel great, but that makes me feel good. Thank you. Well, yeah, so I started out with color pencil, and then I knew like it wasn't something that I wanted. I wanted to do, and then I moved on to, I think, natural graduation from color pencil was watercolors.
Yeah.
Somehow, because like in color pencils, you get those watercolor pencils, and then I started learning that, and then I moved on to water paint, like water paints, and then I still wanted to move on, and I really really always admired like oil painters, the real smooth, the real perfection. I loved it, but however, like I didn't really want to use oil, so I started teaching myself to do acrylics, and acrylics is actually surprisingly like a difficult medium to use because they dry so fast.
Fast, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very difficult to maneuver it without making it look cakey.
Yeah.
So I thought a bit of a challenge, like as an artist, like every artist, like they have such fantastic technique, and sometimes it looks easy, but it's not. Like even the easiest things, like they've had to work on it for years and years to perfect that style. So what like my style is that I use acrylic, but it's very well. I use a special medium with it, and I blend it, and I use about like 20 multiple layers on top of thin layers that makes it look very smooth and oil painting like.
Yeah. It looks very much like it's an oil medium versus you paint with acrylics.
Thank you. Yeah, it took a long time, but I mean it's worth it now. I'm starting to question it sometimes. I'm telling myself it's worth it, but I do question it because my paintings do take up to like 400 hours or more, at least 200 hours easy. It does take very long time, and I work very long hours. I work every single day, including the weekends, till 11 o'clock every night. But I also have a 2-year old, so when she's around, I've got to sort of look after her. But I still work every day, and it does take a long time. And
What do you think? Sorry, you were saying something. What do you think has been the something that felt incredibly hard for you all these years? First, let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about something that was you know it's great when we have passion in the beginning. We feel like everything's going to be easy, and you'll have that um artist dream. That's not true. It does happen for a few, but for some it takes years, and sometimes it doesn't even happen, but then artists keep going. We'll talk about both. What drives you, and what is the hardest thing that over these years that you've worked on and that you still feel is something that you're working on?
drive is a tricky word being an artist, because normal 9 to 5, if you had a normal 9 to 5 job, it's easy to say what drives you. You could say money, or you could say daily recognition from your bosses, or a relationship with your colleagues or coworkers. Being an artist, you don't get any of that. You have to have everything from within. You got to give yourself recognition, which is pretty difficult, especially if you've had the childhood that I've had. I'm quite self-critical, so
Hmm.
it's very difficult to give myself compliments. I'm always criticizing my work. So it's
Yeah.
drive has to be, instead of drive, a lot of times I work from responsibility. I know it sounds pretty depressing, but because in the beginning, especially like now, things are going quite well for me, but it's taken at least 5 years to get here, which is okay.
Yeah.
I changed my career about 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. Like I did some research in like how long would it succeed for a person to, how long would it take for a person to succeed in a new career? And everywhere that I've done a research about, this is coming from my like analyst days, takes about 5 years to make it into a business. So I knew it would take 5 years, but during that 5 years, having pretty much no sale, no recognition,
Yeah.
no awards, and because I'm not an artist, I didn't have any community, so having no direction, like I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any art colleagues or art friends who could give me
Yeah.
information about
Right.
why or what magazine. Like I didn't have any of that, or podcast.
Yeah.
So it was basically like, how do you call it? There's a saying in Korean, like smashing an egg against a rock. you just keep trying. And I was doing some, I guess, like I did some art fairs. And
You did other art fair.
yeah, yeah. Well, before the other art fair, I did one in Amsterdam and one in, like, I put myself into doing one in Via Barcelona in Barcelona. And because you lack these normal, I guess, day to day sort of like drive, like something that
Hmm.
you'll drive.
Hmm.
Being an artist, I think a lot of times you have to be the one who's driving. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, I've learned by being an artist, I grew up a lot, like spiritually and emotionally. Like, one of the biggest thing is that you have to not make your feelings into an action, which means that even if you feel really bad, even if you feel like you're not gonna be anyone, you're not gonna become anything, or you're not gonna, even if you feel such despair that my art isn't going to go anywhere, like, you, I'd have a little cry about it, and I still get up in the studio and paint. Like, I felt horrible, but I didn't make that into my action. I still painted every day, because if you don't stop, then you really, like, it really doesn't, really don't go anywhere. You gotta just, it's like a long marathon being an artist. You have to just keep creating. You gotta keep creating. So I was doing that for 5 years. I was seeing some results, but I wasn't seeing something that was very like,
Mm, that was like,
yeah.
yeah.
So I got to a point where I really thought I would give up, and that was when I was pregnant. I got pregnant with my little girl, and then there was COVID as well. The Fear Barcelona that I pay deposit for actually had to postpone a year because of COVID. And during the year, because I was pregnant, I went through a lot of emotional change. I thought, oh, maybe this isn't meant to happen for me.
Yeah.
And then I gave birth, so I had to postpone the art fair one more year. I still didn't stop creating. Like, I stopped painting for about 9 months, but as soon as my daughter was born, within 6 weeks, I was working. I taught myself Procreate, because I wanted to.
Okay. And you were doing digitally.
Yeah, because I was breastfeeding and looking after a baby. It might be better, and I might be able to teach myself new skills just in case I have to, get a 9 to 5 job again. So I was doing that, and I thought, like, I told myself, okay, like, art is done. Like, it's not gonna happen for me. Oh my goodness! Sorry, you asked me what my drive was, and I'm just it was very difficult to explain. Sorry, like,
Keep going. You always, I think sometimes we can't pinpoint, but I think the biggest driver is also sometimes just not giving in. You just kept on doing it even in spite of, yeah, we all want results or validation or success, but sometimes it's also so much more than that. Like, for myself also, I've invested so much of my time in past few years. I also lost my mom. My personal life has been really hard, and I was giving as much a lot of my own time to Arts project that I always made. I've been making art, but I just knew I wasn't in a season of life where I was pushing my art out there as much. But for me, it was equally important to just make it for myself, and I think just the desire to keep creating sometimes and just to keep going, not for the outcome, not for the validation, not for success. We all want that, but knowing that maybe that's not going to come, you still get up and you figure out, like,
I'm so sorry about your mom. Sorry. Yeah, and then I just babbled on, and I'll answer your question simply. So my drive was basically my self worth. Like, it was that if I gave up, I couldn't live with myself. I felt like I just couldn't.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was self worth and responsibility for who I am that I just kept going, and then, like, and now it's the drive has been changed now, but then, yeah, like, the art fair, because that's an interesting story. So I was actually going to properly give up this time, and then yeah, the art fair happened in October 2022. No, 2021 actually. Yeah. I was going to give up, and I thought, oh, you know what? Like, Barcelona flight fare is so cheap. I've never been. I'll just do it for the last time. I'll just do it. Whatever. Like, we'll just do this one. And
Which art fair was this for you? Which art fair were you doing in Barcelona?
It was FIA Barcelona International Art Fair. And so I went there and I didn't expect anything. I just had my small booth. I had my latest paintings and the paintings I did during my pregnancy and during COVID. And I just enjoyed myself. And I remember talking to this really like old man. He was so lovely, and he's like, "Oh, so I love your art." And I had like for the first time, I had so many people come into my booth and giving me compliments while I was at New Star. I was like, "Oh, wow, that's nice, thanks." And I told him that, "Oh yeah, I'm just this is gonna be my last one." And I'll never forget the way he spoke to me. He was so sincere, and he even had like tear like in his eyes when he was talking to me. And he said, "Don't you ever give up. Like, don't give up. You cannot give up. Like, you gotta keep going. You have to remember, even Picasso. It took him 15 years before he was discovered. Like, just need that one person who would discover you, and you just have to keep going and look at your art. You cannot." And I remember thinking, "Oh, he's so nice," and like it made me like tear up as well. But still, I thought, nothing would happen. I really want-
Wow. I also love how artistic Barcelona is, like, I think the energy of people. When I visited Barcelona, I think it was also a very pivotal point for myself because I just saw how people didn't really care about any. Can you hear me? Yeah. I was saying I also went when I went to Barcelona. This was just before my mom's passing a year before, and before COVID came. And it was such a turning point for myself because when I went there, I saw so many amazing artists, and just somebody, and I there was just so much freedom. I think there I saw like um, I remember going to Basilica, and I don't remember what that park was, and I saw so many artists on the streets, painting there and selling their work. And it inspired me to be like, sometimes you just have to believe in yourself and you just do whatever it takes. And
change the style a little bit. I can change the color. Like I don't have to,
But it's still you.
but they're all,
All of them is still you.
yeah, it is still me, and it still has my like very unique topic of like like a very strange figure in the bath.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy, like I pure like absolutely enjoy doing my paintings right now, which is something that I'm really happy. Like I'm more happy now than if I was to be making, I don't know, that like a lot more money than I did when I was in my 20s. But things have improved a lot, and because I believe in my series that I'm doing now, I started becoming a lot more active in Instagram this year, proper like promotions and competition.
I also think it has something to do with it. I don't know why. I just feel like while we're in the in our early formative years, in 20s, early 30s, and specifically 20s, I feel like I'm in my early 30s. I see this transformation in my own thought process where I feel like I came into a phase where I just didn't want to. I still am not very comfortable with social media. I just it takes too much from you, and also because I'm already run an arts class project, and we spend so much time online working. But also putting I'm a more private person, and putting myself too much out there, it's just, I think it takes a lot from me, and I feel very empty that way. But in my 20s, I think we all come in a place where we want to fit in. And for people like me and you, like, who struggle, who wants to, let's say, feel that validation, but also struggle with doing something that does not feel natural. um, and then, coming in your 30s, and I think what's changed specifically for me is that I am okay failing, I'm okay not doing better, but I'm not okay not being myself. And I've also lifted that pressure, that it's not that if I'm, my numbers or my followers or something is not good, it's not because I'm not good, it's also because, like my business, like my practice, everything takes a lot of effort, and it's like a lot of consistency. And there's also trend, and if I'm not following a trend, if I'm not doing all of those things, it is an outcome that I'm expected to, I'm here to expect. If something contrary happens, great and well. But you come into this acceptance that you'll be yourself, rather being, be successful, like social media terms. I would rather be myself than have a million followers by doing things that don't conform to me.
Yeah, of course. I think being genuine and consistent is very important. However, like with Instagram, especially for artists, it's unless you're a really business minded person that has no feelings attached, it's very difficult to be consistent with it as well. Because
Yeah.
my feelings go up and down. Sometimes I don't want to look at Instagram when I'm feeling down.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for me, running on my business and Instagram, we are consistent. We have a huge following. We do all of those things. But with me, I feel stuck so many times, even though I have someone helping me. And, just because I feel like I just don't feel like sharing this. I just don't feel like sharing my progress. I just don't feel like, it's personal. It's not something I can put a boundary within, and it's okay. It's just not me. It's so many other people. I think, and I do understand that. And I think so many people and artists who are able to, cross that boundary, I'm sure it's not easy, it's really overwhelming. And so many people do it so well.
It's not easy for a lot of people, and I think we don't realize that the lot of people, like not a lot of people, the people that we see on Instagram that has 100k or 200k or whatever, we see it because they have 100k and 200k. That's a very small percentage, but a lot of people, like, they're more like us. So my advice for that is, like, I understand why that is because I was exactly the same. But the reason why I got into being more active on Instagram and doing promotion is because I now feel so connected to my artwork that I'm happy to share my progress. Whereas before, something of myself, I always felt like, oh, maybe it wasn't good enough. Like I didn't feel like I just didn't feel, it just didn't feel right. I just want those artworks to be promoted as me, I guess, which is like that's very early days. However, So I think like the first thing is to find that, like, to create something that you feel really happy with, because when you feel really happy with, number one, you'll stick to your work every day despite the art. Number two, you'll be happy to share your artworks. So I think it's very important thing that it gives ways and paths out to, like, you'll be happy to expose yourself and show yourself to others. Do you know what I mean? Like it leads to a lot of positivity, and not just if you like, you don't have to know that you found it. It's just if you're happy and if you're feeling like you're going, like, even if you don't feel like it, I think showing yourself is very important as well. Like I wasn't really good at it, but my, like, this is more about like, sure, like if you do find the artwork style that you like, that you feel connected to, like, then it will be easier to do those things. However, I think it is very good to keep sharing, because the thing is like, doing all that in the end, like, I feel like this is one of the most important things. What gives is like connection, community, connect with other people, other artists, then you can find a direction better. And I feel like being an artist, like failure isn't isn't really a word. I mean, I've technically, I think being an artist, like, it's a very common thing to not get accepted into things or not do well in an art fair, like, but they all give an outcome to something. So the reason why I found this woman in the bath series is because I actually, it's like, honestly, like, I did this very short series and I took it to LA to do an art fair with, and I bombed. I bombed that art fair, but I didn't feel bad about it. I was like, I realized, oh, okay, like I didn't do well with these. I mean, I sold prints, but like, what do I learn from it? And I learned, like, then you think about, okay, like what I learned from it, what I'm taking away with it, and that's what gave birth to the series that I'm super happy with, and it gave me a lot more result than I've ever in my art career.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Haejin. I have so many more things to ask and learn about you. But I know we're also short on time, and I really appreciate you have my voice, right?
Sorry?
You can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I just realized it's already been 50 minutes, and
Yeah,
oh, I'm sorry,
yeah,
I
it's 50.
walked your ear off.
I'm so glad. I think sometimes, like, just having these conversations, you feel like time has passed so quickly. And I did feel that way. And I hope everybody who's listening to this episode also felt that way. Not only that, we can continue these conversations in, bringing you back about, sometime again. But also, we have an article about you in the magazine, a cover. I wish I did have a copy with me right now, but I don't. But you can go to shop.artsproject.com and find what we're talking about. And there's this beautiful artwork from the Bart series, from Haejin's work on the back cover, on the front cover. There's a huge, beautiful, beautiful spread of her work and so many questions and what she's shared with us. In that interview. So make sure everybody who wants to learn more about Haejin, you can go and grab a copy. But Haejin, tell me something. What are you working on? How can people support you? How can people who like your work, can they buy a print or an original, or just go eager to connect with you?
Right. So right now I've finished my eighth painting of Woman in the Bath, and I'm working on my ninth. So I'm just going to keep working on this series and broaden it, and I may like explore different aspects of the theme, but this is what I want to stick with from now on. I love doing this series. I have a website called HaejinYoo.com, and we actually have a summer sale at the moment. It's all free shipping and 15% off of all my paintings, and prints are available for all, most of my paintings, and they're also on my website or on my Instagram. um, Before I go, I just really wanted to say, like, I wanted to say, I hope I answered your questions. I feel like I ran.
Yeah, I think it was never about answering. It was just about hearing who you are, and I think you opened yourself so beautifully. I'm so grateful for that.
I think I was quite honest about a lot of stuff. I really wanted to say, like, it for everyone who's starting out or who has started out and they have been doing it for a few years or feel like they're struggling, that, like, I still feel that way. I got up and down every few months. So I know that since I've been doing this for 15, I mean, for 14 years, that because I have been doing it for 14 years, I know these feelings, they go away. So when they come, you just gotta keep doing your thing. It will go away and something will come, and keep showing yourself, try to reach out. And I'm always really happy, like I've always been really genuine in answering people's questions, whoever's contacted me, because I feel like it's really important. I didn't have any connection or help when I started out, so I'm really happy
I really want to answer.
to give people tips about things. And
Yeah.
it's important to apply for open calls like Ask the Hearts projects. Yeah, it really is. Keep showing yourself. I just think
I have to push myself actually. This is something I haven't really said it out loud, specifically on the podcast. But in the past couple of years, I have myself not put my work out there, like I also said, but also not submitted my work so much because I understand submissions take a lot of input and you have to prepare yourself and all of those things. And I'm doing that exactly now. I'm putting together my inventory and like, I've been putting together my catalogs and all of those things. And I do understand, like, there's so many people that now I'm on the back end and on the front end of both the things. There's a lot of work that happens on the back end and so many things that you can't even imagine your work can reach, and how even little recognition, a publishing, a small exhibition, a virtual exhibition, or a non-virtual, whatever they might be, they really help you build up your career. Like, it's like, how one drop in the ocean, like, it's not just one drop in the ocean, it's a drop in your glass, and then slowly and steadily your glass starts to fill up, and it's not only for someone else.
100% agree with you. I know we have to go, but I just want to quickly tell you a quick story just before you go. Because like, I have an example. An example is that this year in London for the other art fair, I was the main banner artist.
Yeah, I saw that.
I feel like it's one of my biggest achievements in my art career,
Yeah, congratulations.
because the other art fair is not easy to get in. There's about 900 people applying for it, and then 150 artists gets picked. And all these artists, they're all professionals, been in the industry for a long time, or they've graduated like really prestigious art school, which I don't have my background. And like, it's such a huge honor to be picked out of out of all those amazing art. But the reason that happened, and I spoke to the organizer, and it's because I have like, she's seen me from the art fair before, and she's seen being active in Instagram, showing, and she said that you had the right attitude. Like, I love your artwork, but you also have attitude that you like promotioning, being active, being positive and uplifting. So it's important, like having a good, like, your artwork, or that's important too, but it's also having connection is important, having the uplifting attitude, always showing up, that's really important.
And staying, like, we also look at it while we look out for cover artists or collaborations. We do look at, there's so many amazing artists that we loved, but sometimes um, we don't reach out or we don't accept proposals because we feel like they have great work, but to make things work we need good work, a good attitude, a good collaboration, and someone who's, like, like I said, even in the beginning of this podcast, like, we really truly loved, I'm sure Rabia, who was been coordinating with you, who's also the associate editor of the magazine, um, you've been so responsive. You've been such a good collaborator. You've been, so we've been putting a lot of effort, but we have also recognized that you've been equally so proud of the project and having your book, having your art, and that makes a successful project when you enjoy working with people. And also that makes an impression. Okay, if I have something else tomorrow, your name will always be in my mind, because we had a great experience with you, and we understood that this is a person who's not only someone who's going to take an opportunity and then get done with it and it's done and deal. You're someone who will also make the most of it, who will also help us spread the word, who will be excited about different ideas, and all of those things. And I always love this thing when you are having a conversation, and if I have an idea, I can share it with someone, and I'm like, you always want to have people who are like, oh, I have this idea, and you're like, what? And I'm like, this, let's do this. And you're like, oh yeah, I like this idea, let's do this. You don't want to be in a room where you're like, I have this idea, and somebody's like, no, I don't. Like, you want to be in a place where you can grow together with people. And I think no matter how your big or small your business is, we all, collaborations are about that. So a lot of people, I feel like, artists take it for granted, and they don't respond, or they're not alert, or they're not sorry, or they're not responsible.
That's okay. I think, yeah, you're completely right. I agree with you. I feel so. I am genuinely grateful for like any opportunities that come by. Like I was so truly grateful. I'm like, oh, I can't believe you contacted me. That's really nice of you. But I think it's a really nice attitude to have, and I've been doing it for a long time. Even then, like, and I have won awards, and I have, even then, it doesn't matter. I still feel like everyone who comes by my booth, everyone who buys my artwork, every time it feels like new. I'm like, oh wow, that's amazing. But it was a great attitude to have, and I remember like one of my friends in Sydney, and he's not an artist. He's like, oh no, you can't be like that. You have to act like a real bitch because then you get respect. I'm like, oh, I don't agree with you. I don't think so because we're a community and we got to all work together and like being helpful, like it goes long way, and being positive and being like genuine, it goes really long way too. And I don't think I'd ever want to change that attitude.
No, absolutely not. I think knowing our worths is definitely important. Standing for what we believe in is important. But being kind, being responsible, having 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 a responsible attitude, and someone, I keep saying this. I've also said this on the podcast before, that anyone, neither a collector nor an organization nor a gallery, nobody will invest in you unless you are willing to invest in yourself. And I say that for my own self also, or anybody else. Like, we're a business, we're not funded by the government, or there's no money coming up. There's an application fee, and an application fee that is not a deal breaker. And we do understand, I also understand, not everybody can afford. And I keep saying people that you have to be cautious in the sense of where you're applying, what you're applying. Just have, if you don't have food on the table, please don't apply, it's not for you. If you have some spare money that you're willing to put, or you're in a phase where you are building out your career, you're building out your CVs, you want more eyes on your work, go for it. But if you're willing to spend some money, let's say on a travel or buying something, and if you're not willing to spend some money in your own career, and you're waiting for someone else to come and do that for you, believe me, nobody will. You can invest in time. Investment is not always money. Like, I will do something, or I'll make this series only when there's going to be a show. I don't think that's how it works. So you have to be so, like, you have to keep, I keep doing this. Like, a lot of my artworks, they too sell now, in the sense, like, if it's done, I get it framed, I get it packed, a certificate is ready, the artist note is here, it's ready. I'm not going to wait for someone to come and buy it for me to do that. Like, my confidence grows. Like, these are small things. Like, when you invest in yourself, it starts to come out.
Of course, definitely. I 100% agree with you. And like for me, like I'm more surprised that you feel bad that you haven't been applying for things because I'm like, you run this whole big project. That's full time. That's such a full time job, and I don't feel like you have really high expectations about yourself. Like what you're doing is
But I think I acknowledge this fact. I acknowledge that there are different seasons where I had so much going in my personal life. I had a company, I had this project, everybody. But now I had picked up my career before this. I was selling so much work I was making, but also my time got reduced. Now I'm back in the studio. I'm making more work. I'm selling more work. I'm doing more shows, and I'm taking this year to actually kickstart that season. And I think we all understand that unless I'm not disappointed. I just know that I haven't worked for it, and this year I'm working for it, and I know it's going to show me a path, because I'm going to put effort and look out for a map, and I'm going to take my next step, and it's as simple as that. Sometimes we overcomplicate things.